We want to have the brother come on and talk to us and share his insight and his understanding of how things have been and how things have transpired over the generations. So, with that being said, we're gonna see if we can get him on the line now. Islam,
Greedy, greedy.
can you hear us okay, brother?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, I'm just trying to make sure everybody can hear you on this side as well. So, salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
But first and foremost, I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yes? All right. Well, look, I got a set of questions and things to talk about, but essentially, I also want to give you the platform to share with the community, with the listeners in different parts of the world that listens to this show, things that you think is relevant for us to know about. One of the things I'm very interested in is your ability to possibly give some insight on what may be around the corner for people here in terms of political projection. But before we even go down that road, why don't you just give the listeners a bit of brief history, a bit of your background, who you are, and how you came to be.
Well, I was born in America, like the rest of the slaves, and I was born by the name of Raymond Cook by my mother, my parents, in Los Angeles in 1954. And my father was the first Catholic and veteran for World War II. Mother, New York. With a gang history or the history of the Panther Party, and I just have to have the opportunity to grow up in Watt on the east side at the time. Those things were going on, and so this part of our environment as 9, 10, 11-year-old to experience Watt ride and see the transformation of the people right before your eyes, moving from one color status to the next. We was little, you could call it black. You get stopped. Then they asked why you call them that. So that was a deep experience itself. Jim Crow get knocked in the head. So we were actually the first generation that were supposedly integrated in America. And so that was probably just taking on a little different characteristics than previous generations. But for the most part, we were just children of the Black Panther Party and the other militant groups that were around in the 60s in South Central. Los Angeles.
All right.
So many ways to sum it up or explain it. We can do a lot of that later, but that's just basically South Central, Los Angeles, product of, Jim Time.
Okay. And when you talk about the children of the Black Panther Party, or you speak about being around at that time as a young person coming up. One of the things that we told the listeners in the build up to you coming onto the show is that you was a baby Panther. And so, could you give us a little breakdown about what that was like, what that meant for you, and what kind of things was happening?
Well, the Panther Party at the time kind of represented a shift in thinking from more like a step-respected. If you wasn't step-respected or a little Uncle Tom type of Negro, that's a professional black person. The only other role models you had was either being a pimp or a gangster, and mostly a pimp, because you had that around our neighborhood up there on Figueroa and all what. And so those are choices people had, young black people had. So when the Black Panther Party came, we actually had leadership, youth leadership, young leadership, bold leadership. We actually had a manifestation of a whole new type of so-called black man.
All
A
right.
whole new way of thinking. This is the byproduct of Malcolm X. Everybody knew that. But as a child, you had the opportunity and motivation to read books and study things that you never were interested in before because, some people tell you that you black and y'all were slaves and that's the only thing that your people contributed. That kind of turns off young people real quick in the fourth grade and fifth grade. It's more like you're really ready to fight right then anyway. But,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the kind of experience we had. We had the experience of young people in leadership positions and change coming about before our eyes, and they would tell you how it was done. Like the breakfast program for children. They made sure that everybody in our neighborhood, all the young people would let their children go and parents were fed breakfast before they go to school in the morning. And then they also had different courses in health and education, and they always used to show film. And it was a cool place to go because the people looked like the coolest people in the neighborhood or in the hood anyway. So, one thing about the Black Panther Party, the oldest person in the Black Panther Party was only 30, so mostly everybody was children or young adults. But
Yeah.
they were very scientific, and they were able to motivate young people to learn things and develop themselves. So, and protect the community against the police who always seemed like we was the ones they supposed to be beating on and hanging. And then you couldn't go in certain neighborhoods back then for real, where now they play like you can, but before we already knew it could. So the Black Panther Party caused an explosion in the head of most people in America and not the world, but especially in the neighborhoods in South Central where they had the headquarters.
All right. All right. All right. All right. Well, everyone that's listening, that's the voice of Dhanifu Karim-Bey calling all the way in from the West Coast of the United States to be a part of the show today. So I invite you to come with your questions. Some of the questions I already know what people want to know, and I got them written down here. But it's even better when you call in and ask the questions directly yourself, while you have the opportunity to engage with our brother here. So if you're listening, if you're somewhere in the United Kingdom, no matter where you are in the United Kingdom, we got a national landline number that's like calling around the corner from your own house, and you can reach us on 03300160009, and that's anywhere in the United Kingdom. For our folks listening in the United States, if you're on the eastern seaboard there, anywhere in the eastern part of the United States, you can hit us up on area code 347-305-0091. And if you're on the West Coast and you want to jump in the conversation, you can hit us up on area code 323-218-0091. And that's how you can get involved with what we're talking about here. Now, you talked about the Panther Party, and their influence upon the youth at that time and yourself at that time. When you talk about these things, what comes to mind for me is what was the impact like? What was the impact like when the police and the federal government actually waged war on the Panther Party? What was the impact like for those who had grown up and saw the Panthers as their heroes, saw the Panthers as the people who fed them, cared for them, taught them things about themselves and their history? What was the impact like?
Well, the biggest impact was the Panther Party, in a way, was a response, a rational response to what was happening in Selma and other places like that when a lot of the Panthers were still in Smith. And many of the youngsters weren't really getting along already with the elders about the nonviolent tactics, right? But they still were going to be with the elders because that's kind of power that faith and action has on people, right? So when the people saw the government attacking the Black Panther Party, all the way down at junior high school, well, this didn't do nothing but strengthen the people's resolve or strengthen the people's determination to fight back anyway, because before we were getting beat down and wasn't nobody fighting back.
Right.
So this just galvanized more people in terms of political awareness that we were actually dealing with something in the government that was weird, if not wicked, because most of the things we saw the Black Panther Party doing were good things. Like, they killed that brother, all he was doing was teaching us how to read. We're like, dang, they killing niggas because they teaching other niggas how to read? You dig? So this is the kind of response we had. There's a lot of the things, most of the 10-point platform of the Black Panther Party, most of the points of the 10-point platform are just basic development skills and focuses to develop and protect the community, because basically we were the ones suffering in poverty and squalor. You dig? So the Panther Party put together a program to alleviate some of the basic fundamental food, clothing, shelter, education, and security, basic fundamental things that human beings all need, right? So the impact didn't do nothing to galvanize most youngsters and unify them. But it really wasn't as many Black Panthers. It seems like it's with media. And another aspect of the Black Panther Party, everybody who was black was a member, so it wasn't like an exclusive organization that couldn't be infiltrated. So the impact was so many aspects to the impact. It's hard to describe a time in history. Well, it's kind of like now. You get a little flavor of what's going on now after a lot of the killings of the young people in America. You get a little flavor of what the 60s were like now, pretty much. However, there was a question of right now, it looks like leadership is forming, as opposed to then, leadership had crystallized. The vanguard had emerged. And so you get a little of that now, the way things are.
All right. We got a question for you from the studio. 1 second.
Greetings, Dhanifu. This is Dave from the Progress Unit, just co-hosting the Twilight. Hi.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm asking a question that, from what I've heard, obviously the overt racial brutality that you guys got, I can see exactly why we came together, because basically black people, especially from the West Indian background, basically experienced that same type of brutality. But if we fast forward to 50 odd years since the 50s, since the first generation of West Indians came here, we now have this so-called inclusion, which is basically an illusion of inclusion. So what's happened is that a lot of us have become complacent to a lot of the aspects of racism, where, for instance, you'll get black people in certain particular roles and jobs, high-grade roles and jobs. So even though there's still a bit of police brutality and isolated cases of racism, some of us basically have a bit of apathy towards fighting against racism, because we see some faces and figures in high office, some of them in the government, some people might be in the mayor's office and doing some kind of particular stuff. So how do we get past that, basically that illusion of inclusion? Because it seems that basically a lot of us become relaxed in fighting against the system when we see certain figures that look like us in high office.
Yeah, when they do that, racial showcasing.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
they
yeah,
do the racial
yeah.
showcasing. They bring out a black person as a mayor,
Yeah.
or they bring out a black person as a top businessman,
Yeah.
like Dr. Dre. You know, he's a billionaire now,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, you can make it. All you got to do is work harder and do more.
Yeah.
But when you look at what's happening with most people on the ground, things ain't really improved from in that kind of way. So
Exactly.
yes, you heard the question. Dhanifu, what you got to say to Brother David on that?
Well, I appreciate the question because when we're trying to develop a political agenda or clarity when we're trying to solve a problem, being the sense of Africa, we can always go back to Malcolm X, Ballad of the Bullet, by any means necessary. Those particular materials kind of make things clear. We always knew about the house Negro, the gatekeepers, and all the little food bitches that they used to set up and put up there to help enforce imperialism and neo-colonialism and all other little terms that people on the streets may not be familiar with. But the difference is for a revolutionary or a freedom fighter or a social engineer to recognize is, as was pointed out before by Brother Malcolm X, was that the movement usually comes about from the, well, I guess we could say, in America, mostly the rebellion, the upheaval that occurred recently was mostly from the people they call the gangbangers. Those were Crips and Bloods out there. Those were young people. Those were babies. Those weren't the people in high places that hooked up with these little secret societies or whatever, and these prestigious this and that. They weren't the bourgeois or the boulets or whatever the terms that we used to use and everyone is familiar with.
Yeah, bourgeois.
It was the young people, and it was the young people who were dispossessed, and the young people who may have a little of success, they jumped in too. But basically, this is the group that the military-industrial complex targets as the gangbanger. Really, it's just another word for savages or heathens. It's just our babies, our children, our young people who still have the spirit of a revolutionary, a warrior. We still have the spirit. It's a natural phenomenon that's going on. Those who are more conditioned with more of the European style education are more complacent and more subject to follow a Dr. Dre because basically that's Hollywood.
Yeah.
This people was started by people who know they don't have any option with Hollywood. They decided to create their own history. It's what the Panther Party used to talk about in the other revolutionary groups. They seized the time. They got tired. It wasn't TV that brought about the revolution. How the brother Steve say the revolution would not be televised.
Yeah, Gil Scott
The
Heron.
revolution was digitized.
Serious, yeah.
Through the technology on the street. And the beautiful thing about this particular revolution that's going on that they don't want you to know is that it's all generations seem to have lined up with the elders, the young people, you understand, against what we call the present leadership of Black America. Only one they kind of gave respect to was Holden. So there's a shift in leadership going on in America right now, which should be occurring where you're located because we're under the same economic despotism. The same people that bought us and sold us here, the same people who are running the show now, and they game is people. They call them the merchants of doubt. And the merchants of doubt make you believe that you can bring about change. You understand? And when you hear someone speak to you that you cannot bring about a change in your lifetime, you know you're talking to the wrong people. What we need is what Garvey said, we need to create a race of scientists. This is our goal. For example, through the literacy. And what we've been doing recently, communicating with each other with this new technology. So I'm kind of happy.
I hear that. I hear that. Well, you know, as we progress with this cipher, as we stir the ethers, I know people out there wondering, you know, did things go from baby Panthers to the Crips? You know, and I know people are wondering how that might have happened. And I know you said you only had about 30 minutes to be on the show, so I'm watching the time. So I got to get these questions in that people have been asking me. So that's the one I'm gonna put out there now. Is how did things move from the baby Panthers to the Crips?
That's kind of simple stuff. Hey, you know, last time we were talking about the stuff on the Panther Party and the other militants, they had the us organization and other organizations that were out there teaching people new ideas and creating new cultures right inside America. But once our former owners, the rulers and the rich, figured that they had to take the head off the snake, as they say. So they moved on the leadership of the Black Panther Party and other organizations, and they infiltrated it with their agents like they should and like they do. And basically, you had a body with no head. What I mean, you had a lot of these groups that were organized by Elijah Muhammad, then came Malcolm X, who organized another wing, and then you already had Martin Luther King had organized, galvanized thousands of people, you know, in battle array to march. So this was almost a part of the rhythm that was still in marching was in the spirit of the people. So now that you had the Black Panther Party, most of the leadership on the run in foreign countries in jail, and many of them dead, right?
Yeah.
Now you have a group of young people that were following these people in junior high school and now reaching high school level, and they are militarized. Social militaristic formations, all gang. This is a natural phenomenon, all right? This is natural. You destroy all governments, you're going to eventually come up with a hunting and gathering association, which somebody might want to call a gang.
Yeah, yeah. I like how you said that. A hunting and gathering association, which some people might call a gang. Because in actuality, when I listen to what you're saying, when you kill off the leadership and you take away the teachers and you take away the those who shape and mold the culture, you leave the people void. You know, only living with remnants of the culture and no one there to continue to cultivate it. You know,
that's what happened. I didn't mean to cut in, but that's exactly what happened. But you still, in those neighborhoods where you had the leadership most, those were the neighborhoods where you had the most organized gang formation.
Right.
So, we would have to say that the gang took off from that point. We can go into detail on different gang origins, but for the most part, most of the gangs in Los Angeles have a common origin of parent group, and the parent group for the present-day gangs was the Slothers. And then you had a lot of Panthers and militants out of that particular group, and then you had the Mau Mau. So these military formations of people during the 60s was just the parent group of what you call the Crips and Bloods. And that's where you can identify. We can trace it easy because many of our older brothers and sisters were the original Panthers and the original US members and the original Black Guerrilla family founders. So that's the easy that's the easy task. Like the leader of the Black Panthers when we were in there, but Alpinus Bunchy Carter, he had a little brother named Kitty Carter. Our Kitty Carter was a Crip. How'd that happen? Easy. Easy. A new guard came into being. By the time junior high school got to high school to get in the Black Student Unions, which were satellites of the BSU all over the country and all the different colleges and high schools, in leadership, like Twilight said, it pretty much been eradicated or shook up. And the government, the agencies know how to shake things up. That's one of the angles and answers to that question. The capitalists always use capitalists to eradicate socialism. We wouldn't use socialism to eradicate socialism. I'm talking about economics now. And the reason I'm talking about economics is because this is the capitalist imperialist society that we live in, exist in, as well as you over there, imperialism is international. And they do this racist, caste, color caste system and economic system all over the world for some strange reason. And so the same thing they do in here, they either already done it over there in England, Britain, or they getting ready to do it. They haven't changed their tactics. They only, the technology is the only thing that's changing. We over here still slaves. We over here don't have a right to vote. We still laboring under a privilege to vote, right?
Privilege to vote. Please explain the difference.
Yeah.
Please explain the difference.
So,
What do you mean privilege to vote versus right to vote?
well, a privilege is temporary, where a right to vote is inalienable, supposedly. Meaning forever. You can't take it from you. But we're the only people in America, that descendants of Africa, who have a privilege to vote, right? And then they tell you slavery was abolished, but the 13th Amendment tells you clearly, unless or except if you convicted of a crime, then slavery is still lawful for you. So it's like over 50% of us males over here are in jail, where we making up over 50% of the penitentiary, but we only supposed to be 12% of the population. So that's already telling you what's going on here.
And when you say that, for people in London that's listening,
but that's where they're creating a lot of this foolishness that's called gangs, as opposed to the real development of the natural phenomena called gangs and its leadership. So we don't want to talk too long. You won't be able to retain some of the information. Thank God for that.
I hear that. I gotta play some adverts, Dhanifu. I'm aware that you've been on the line now about a half hour, and I was wondering if you would stay with us for another maybe 10 minutes. I gotta play these ads, the commercials, and they're gonna last about 3 minutes. And if you can give us another 7 minutes after that of your time, I just want to get 2 more of the questions, and plus Dave has another question for you as well. Is that all right?
Let's roll.
All right. Everybody that's listening, we're going to go and do the ad break real quick. Stay tuned. We got Dhanifu Karim-Bey on the line, first generation, all the way from South Central Los Angeles, from the east side, from the place they call Watts. Was there when the Watts riot took place, was there when the Crips were born, and also was a baby Panther in the time of his youth. So make sure that you're tuning in and taking notes. Hear the ads so we don't upset the management. All right, we are back. Dhanifu, can you hear me, bro?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got a call during the break that people said that if you could speak up, that they can hear you, but you sound really low. I've turned up all of my volumes in the studio, so I'm hoping that will give people what they need.
All right, can you hear me?
All right, you got a question. Someone's got a question for you. I'm gonna put them on real quick. All right, caller, you on the line?
Yes, sir. Sheikh Dhanifu, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum salam. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very well. I'm very well. I wanted to ask you a question. It's kind of a two-jointed question. I just wanted to know, with the Moorish teachings, using the Jafari fiqh, how is that conducive, and how is that used with the minds of the younger Bloods and Crips, or any of the younger gang members, whether they in the UK, the US, Africa, Asia, or anywhere else?
Well, let's put it this way. When you're dealing with Islam, fiqh is a branch of law that can be applied to the environment, depending on which environment you're in. I guess you would choose which type of fiqh you would use. The question of being a mole, that's a question of genealogy and inheritance. So, a more just technically, it's just telling me who. Jafari fiqh is telling me what type of jurisprudence you're trying to apply, and then the other question was, how can that be conducive for Moors or black people in the diaspora? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
That's correct. All right. Well, any kind of law, actually, hopefully you guys can hear me. Any kind of law, a positive law would be conducive for the descendants of Africa in the diaspora, because after slavery, basically, when they let us go after 1865, we were just lawless. So law is always should be in the mix when you're dealing with developing people. And when you talk about relating to Crips and Blood, well, it's, you know, a lot of people I know that are from those particular groups don't seem to resemble what the outsiders think they are. And I find some of the most intelligent scientists, geniuses, and determined people amongst this targeted population called thugs, the gangbangers and hoochie mongers. Actually, they're real creative. And if we don't develop them in the sciences and they don't get law, then we've lost the whole purpose of existence. Yeah, G got to have law. Because the G no law covers all the sense. That's what a G is, geometry. But see, a G ain't going to give you the whole game, because the game is to be sold and not told. But we shouldn't have to tell you that if you're a G, see, because you already know that we got a secret code. You draw. However, we must educate the people, right? And that means gangbangers too. They got good hearts. Now we have to work on their vocational skills, like the scholars were saying in the past. All our babies need a vocation, a skill, so they can make money. They got the heart. The academics come when those of us realize that all we need to do is change the literature and give them a vocation. And that's your duty. That's not something you choose to do if you love your race and you know the condition of your people in this world and in this day and time. I didn't mean to diss nobody. I just trying to keep it real. As a freedom fighter or revolutionary, our job is to develop our people. The quickest way to development is organization. And the quickest way to organize is to change the literature, because it's through literature that they brought us into slavery by teaching lies. Way back there with Shakespeare.
All right. Did you get that, Brother Naeem?
Absolutely, I did get that. And Sheikh, thank you for answering that question.
All right. Thank you for your call, Naeem. Giant, we got another call on the line that's coming in from Los Angeles. I'm gonna transfer the call to the mic real quick. All right, brother Akil, I'm about to transfer you. All right, Dhanifu, you still there, right?
Yeah.
All right. All right, Colin, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, this is Akil Bashir. Hotep, Assalamu alaikum, brother Twilight, brother Dhanifu. This is Akil. How you soldiers doing?
Upset food. All is well.
All is well.
Okay, all I wanted to say, I wanted to make sure the audience clearly understood. You got two soldiers that are spreading serious knowledge. I've been in the streets and struggled with both of these brothers, and I'm an elder in this work, have been for many, many decades. The sign of a true leader, a real leader, teach those that that leadership is trying to teach to replace them. We need to applaud our brothers, and we need to make sure that we spread this knowledge and spread this information. So, huge to the Twilight for putting on this show. We've been in the struggle for over 30 years. The real truth that so many of these younger soldiers need to hear. We got to become strategic thinkers and strategic doers. So our brothers want to validate what's being said and just need that listening audience to know you got real generals on the line. Take heed and take notes. That's all I have to say, soldiers.
All right.
That's the general right there. You gonna try to slide away and look at. Check that out. That's mighty right there. Look at
Yes,
that.
sir. Good show, excellent show. I'm gonna let you finish your speech, brothers, and I want to listen. But outstanding work. Keep it up. I salute both of you.
All right. Alhamdulillah, brother. All praises be to Allah. Thank you for your call.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, we got another question for you, Dhanifu. Brother David got a question for you. Brother David, go ahead with your question, sir.
Yeah, hi Dhanifu. Basically, when you mentioned once they took off the leadership of the Panther leaders and teachers, and then you had this void. Also, just to concur what you said, there was obviously the COINTEL program, which J. Edgar Hoover initiated, and obviously with unlimited funds, that obviously gave them the ammunition to actually misguide our youths, or gave us all those negative incentives to become gangs. Can you just give us some examples of how the COINTEL program actually created the gangs? Any examples, please?
Well, I'd have to say, I think that the COINTEL Pro indirectly created gangs, but there never been illusion. But I see what you're saying. And what you sound like you're saying is it helped. It used the gang to the disadvantage of the community.
Okay.
And there's various examples of how the oppressor or the greedy capitalist imperialist swine, how he controls populations who divide and conquer. Ever since they started rolling on people with an imperialist gang. Divide and conquer is the name of the game.
Absolutely.
Like they did in the 60s. They divided the UP organization from the Black Panther Party. They divided SNCC from Martin Luther King. They divided the House Negro from the Field Negro. They divided the black people in Britain from the black people in America, from the black people in the West Indies, from the black people in Africa. They divided the Crips from the Bloods. They divided the black Democrats from the black Republicans. They divided all the red man against the black man, the Mexicans against the nigger. And what they been doing, gonna keep doing until the people realize that's the hologram they putting out there to control you. Focus on your own literature. Develop your own media. Develop your own means of communication. Stop listening to the oppressor. He's gonna teach you the way that benefits only the few and never the few. If you're gonna educate people, go join a big giant gang and help organize them. And the blessing of organization is development.
Okay.
And see, these are the things that I think people really need to understand in terms of how this thing played out. And I think, even the way that you broken it down there in terms of divide and conquer. The divide and conquer is a game that's been being played for long, long periods of time. I mean, when you talk about the Hutus and the Tutsis, They essentially the same people that speak the same language, and an artificial separation was created because the Hutus and the Tutsis are the same people. There were no Hutus and Tutsis until the colonizers came. And the colonizers take one group and gave them rifles and gave them one bullet and told them to go over into the next village and kill all the men and bring back their right hand as proof that you've killed them, and we won't kill your children and we won't kill your wives. And these are the way things were being played out in the Congo. And people got to remember that a lot of these conflicts and the wars that we keep hearing about, Africans fighting with each other, were being stimulated and motivated from outside. That's not to say that Africans didn't have confrontations and disagreements and get into things with each other, but we also found ways of mediating our conflicts and moving past it. Yeah, but what came and hit us in the head with this thing that's called white supremacy and the chattel slave trade and colonialism, that was something that we and our ancestors had not ever experienced. Our ancestors had not ever experienced before. Therefore, they didn't know how to respond to it. You know, that's my assessment of it based on my analysis of history.
Well, that's how we got to do it. When we're clear on the condition we in as a people and have our garbage spectacles on, so to speak, just keep scientific with the facts and we can move on, right? If we are sincere and dedicated to the development of our people.
This is it. This is it. Now, some people, you know, and this is one of the questions, one of two questions I wanted to ask you before I let you go. But one of the questions that people was talking about when they see things happen. Now, you got to remember, people in the UK, they are not in LA, and a lot of the imagery that some people see is what they see on TV and what they see in movies, and they see the palm trees and they see the sunshine, and they don't understand why some of the things in the hood happen the way that they do. You know, so one of the questions I have for you is that, you know, what aspects do the social conditioning play in breeding the kinds of levels of violence that people in the UK are hearing about in LA, Chicago, New York, but now also starting to see elements of that kind of violence in the streets here as well. You know, what kind of things generate that? What kind of conditions create that?
Well, one of the conditions that creates that is greed. And then when you get to deal with the descendants of Africa,
We just need you to speak up.
is one thing we powerless and miseducated and uninformed. Most of it starts with being uninformed. We allow the enemies of our people to teach our children in school and expect our children to come out of their schools thinking rational. That's not rational.
I hear that. I just need you to speak. Giant, don't mean to cut you. I just need you to speak up a bit louder so that people can hear you, because I'm getting messages that some people still struggling to hear you. They could hear you a little while ago, but it seemed like the volume's going on again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good. There we go.
All right, let me try it like this. The other point I was making was we send our children to the enemy schools and expect our enemies to educate our children correctly. Our children go to their schools and come out looking at reality through the spectacles of the people who enslaved us. That's another problem, an element of the condition. Now, being in California per se has really nothing to do with why black people shoot each other, other than we probably got more sunshine and longer day hours to do it.
Yeah.
But overall, the conditioning of the minds of the people in America and in Europe, which is including England, Britain, all that, is designed to undermine the oppressed or the conquered people or the second-class citizens or the semi-citizens, all these different designations they have for people who are not white, basically, because when we overlook the fact of white supremacy being the chief element, the chief gangbanger on the planet, if we overlook that, we don't even know what's going on. We got a group of greedy people that want to control 99% of the world's resources only for 1% of the population. All right. Now, how do they do it? Their gang is based on their skin, and it's the only religion they follow, religiously. I'm white.
Yeah.
But if you ain't white, you ain't in their gang. Now, NATO is their mafia. And NATO roams throughout the earth, beating everybody down, and they want to talk about what the conditions go into making up black gangbangers on the street of L.A. Look at the different elements that cause NATO and the European nations to go forth throughout the earth, gangbanging everywhere they want to go. We made in the image and likeness of our slave owners.
Yep.
That's the only language that we knew. So when they freed us, some of us came out in the Midwest, we were cowboys. Others came out on the East Coast, and they was gangsters like the Italians and businessmen and the Irish.
That's right.
We imitate and look like our oppressors because they cut us off from our own language, their own culture, their own ways and morale. Now we got their morale. Here I am, a cat, barking at other cats, thinking I'm a dog. This is not rational. They give you definitions of who you are and you accept it. This is the problem. Knowledge itself is the problem. Point 5 of the 10-point platform of the Black Panther Party tells you what the problem is. You don't know your world, your role in this present-day society. You have no knowledge yourself. You have no means of understanding anything else. Negroes throughout history have known everything, from physics to all those things. Auto mechanics, electronics, know everything but they self. Experts on everything. Ask them about themselves. They're running from themselves.
Absolutely.
Wonder why people gangbanging? They don't even like themselves. When they look at each other, oh, you ain't European, I have to respect you, nigga. Who you look at, nigga? That's the problem, the psychological problem.
Yeah.
We teach our youngsters the psychology of freedom and understand what the psychology of freedom is. So then we have to study Leroy Jones. Then we have to study Naima. Then we have to study as gangsters or non-gangsters, as young parents, our own scholars, and then apply their ideas and never be afraid of your own children. You're an adult or you're older than the people in your neighborhood, so what your little brothers and sisters may be gangbangers with that. You're supposed to be up in there with them. And that's how we do it.
Now see.
Now then, hopefully somebody heard something I said.
Nah, we heard you. We heard you loud and clear.
Absolutely.
This is my next question because I want to make sure I get these key ones out. You know, and I'm aware you've been on now for about 55 minutes, man. And we wasn't supposed to keep you this long.
You deserve some attention, bro. They don't know about you. That's all right. That's all right. They ain't got to know until we free what really this is.
Well, see.
And this is what we should be doing more of, you young brothers and you brothers. Yeah, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is what the Panther Party did. This is what Malcolm wanted you to do. This is what we must do. And when you're doing it, you win it. And when you're not doing it, you lose. This is life. What you living and what you doing is life.
Well, see, I'm glad. I'm glad you said that because some people believe all they got to do is just get a job, keep their head down, don't say much, see what's going on, know better, know more than what some people know. But all they do is keep it moving with their job and their self-righteousness that I've saved myself, and that's the only thing that matters. And see, I keep saying to people that if you're not active and you're passive, that you're worse than the worst terrorists on the planet. Because you are the very reason why they get away with such things. Because when you active, you winning. When you passive, you're losing. It's as simple as that. Yeah, so we're going to be about progress. We got to get out here and make things happen. That's the only way it's going to happen. Now, I got to ask you this one, Dhanifu. How important is it that we control the political reality of our local communities? Is it important for us to control the political realities of our communities? Is it important for us to control our local councils and our city councils and our wards? Is it important for us to control the policy that is generated to govern our way of life?
Now, hopefully people can hear what I'm saying. That's a no-brainer. If we do not control the institutions that are around us, then we are under control. And if you're under control, you're not in control. And if you're not in control, you ain't got no soul. Meaning, what the hell are you doing? Complaining if you letting everybody else control your own institution. How can you run a hood? How can you be a responsible citizen or intelligent citizen of the earth or the universe and you don't even control the institutions in the community? Well, they use integration and inclusivism and all that other fight to make you think you shouldn't own the corner store in your hood. Well, now we know that's a lie. So we get busy into taking over the institutions in our community, even if it's a ball box at the park. Start from there. Things we can do. We can do that. But you got to get with the youngsters. The ones in the junior high is the next targeted population. You got to get with them, stick with them, and develop the nation from there.
Well, see, what you saying that, it just brings to mind the what's been something that I've been discussing with people here, and we've had these discussions in LA before I came over here to hang out a bit. And that question, and that thing that comes to mind is, who can deliver sustainable change? Is it the police and law enforcement policies that's going to deliver sustainable change? Or is it going to be the very individuals, the very men and women in the communities and the organizations that they create, community grassroots-based organizations that can bring the necessary change that's needed to reduce the number of people going to prison and reduce the violence amongst our youth? Who can deliver? Is it going to be the police and criminal justice policy, or is it going to be the self-determination and the actions of the people in the communities affected? Which one's going? Who can deliver?
It's never going to be the police to bring about the change to the problem. The police is supposed to be your servant. They're there to serve you. It's always going to be about the people who bring about the change. It's always going to be the least ones that know most about the system. The ones who know least about the system in most cases will be the ones who change it, because they're going to think it's bizarre once it confronts them. The system is designed to produce certain results, and the results that this particular system is its purpose is for capital, materialism alone. It doesn't have a moral soul. The people are supposed to be the government. Supposed to be. And they always been feeding us this who's supposed to be crap. Right? The key is the people. And if the adults fail to step up to the challenge to save the future because they've been told that you can't change nothing, some strange God that the European slave owner wants you to be a slave and a good bootlicking nigger, and he'll handle it by and by, then they should be rolling with that. But in the meantime, there's always been the people. The institution's supposed to have been developed for the people. The illusion is the descendants of Africa always think that they are included in the phrases we the people when they know by common sense that they're not included. So they have to start thinking in terms of developing their own government and establishing their own jurisdiction, which takes us back to controlling and collectively owning all the different things in your environment. Under segregation, Watts was better before 65, man.
Hey, and a lot of people don't. You
had all kind of stuff up in there.
See,
we had rich people and poor people all in the same spot.
And
man, it's still kind of beautiful up in there. But can you imagine how it was before we was allowing white folks, before white folks was speaking to us as regularly as they are now?
Well, see, you touching on something.
Been popping.
You see, you touching.
They have fun. But all of a sudden they tell you you're free now. And all of a sudden you can't control the police, the sheriff, the city council. You don't go to PTA meetings. Well, then you don't have a right to complain if you're not going to take over your own thing. Well, that's plain. It really seems, but I don't like to talk like that.
Now, see, you touching on something right there. Because when you talk about segregation, and a lot of people don't know that under segregation, our schools excelled and achieved more than the schools that were operating in the mainstream society. Our people don't understand that under segregation, we had our own businesses, we had our own banks, and we generated jobs for ourselves, employed ourselves. Yes. And we were able to maintain a certain quality of life. Even our poor was looked after by us, under segregation. But the moment you do the desegregation thing, what people don't understand is in the society and institutions that were built under the principles of white supremacy, then white supremacy is like the Borg if you into Star Trek. Everything will be assimilated to strengthen it. Everything will be assimilated by white supremacy to strengthen white supremacy. And under those kind of circumstances, how could you believe that you're going to find freedom and salvation outside of the context of looking after your own stuff? And we're not saying that we don't want to be able to interact with other groups, but there should be an equality in the level of understanding, economically, politically, as well as culturally. Our independence have to be in place, and we have to sit as full-on equals, not equals in tyranny and destruction, but in equals in terms of our ability to exercise our right to determine our own destiny. Every other group does it. How is it that we don't? And this is the kind of thing that people got to understand, because to me, growing up in Watts, being involved in what I was involved in, yeah, you might want to call it gangs or whatever you want to call it, but one thing we was doing is on a certain level, we were determining our own reality, and we were determining what could and couldn't happen where we were. And we had a little taste of what it could actually be like to exercise it on a high level before they flooded the hood with crack cocaine. Yeah, so we had a little glimpse of what it potentially could be like to have that level of control. And when they took away our leadership, when they went out and they attacked the men in our community, and they attacked the minds of our women, and they attacked our schools with the backwards education, they set us on a path of self-destruction. Yeah, and that's the thing that people got to understand. And I'm not saying it because I'm this old all pro-black, pro-nationalist kind of person. You gotta take stock of what you experience. You got to take stock of what's printed in the newspaper. You got to take stock of what the daily experiences of hundreds of thousands of people are who happen to be of the same hue, who happen to share the same heritage, and who happen to be subjected to the hill of the boot of the same institutions, and they're all getting the same outcomes. And when you have that racial showcasing, where you take one Negro out of the pigsty and hold him up as if he's achieved something, every time they hold up a Negro like that, all I can say to people is watch the math. Yeah, you look at Dre. Dre's a billionaire now. Now, how many more niggas is more poor now than they were before Dre became a billionaire? And it seems as if every time one is given a whole bunch of money, there's a whole lot more that's worse off. Yeah, and that in itself says that the math ain't right. But until we create our own institutions and take responsibility for our own self-determination and build and develop what is required in our collective heritage, which is the ability to exercise sovereignty and the rights of determining our own directions in this world, then we're going to continue to be in a position where other people are controlling things for us. It's as simple as that, So we've been able to come into the cipher and stir the ethers. And we've been stirring the ethers with the great Dhanifu Karim-Bey. Yeah, we've had brothers call in from Los Angeles, London, Vegas, as well as Vegas. Yeah, and we stirring the ethers, and this show don't go on all forever, but we gonna have the giant back again. Because the Moorish movement and the awakening of the people and the upliftment of fallen humanity is on a global move now. We got our own radio shows, and we're going to grow these radio shows. We're going to grow things in the community. We're going to plant seeds, and we're going to multiply what it is that we put out there into the environment, and it's going to get bigger and bigger, more refined, more structured, more determined, more strategic, and deploy tactics that are designed to free us and give humanity back what God gave us, which has been taken hostage by men, which is our right to freedom, liberation, and self-determination. You know, so that's where things is coming from here on the Reasoning Show. So Dhanifu, I have to thank you for coming on to this show, brother. You stayed with us for longer than you were supposed to, but I'm not gonna keep you all night because I did say I was gonna respect your time. You know, but you said 30 minutes to an hour. We now 1 hour and 5 minutes. But is
I
there?
hear you brothers, and I know that the future is in good hands if you guys just do it till you drop.
Yes.
You're already free. You're already winning. What you doing? Trust. It feels more like the 60s now than it has in a while. So that means that you'll get your hands on the gears because the people is waiting. And I don't care what they say. You young people are the saviors of the nation. And with that, I give you peace and love for all time. So I'm out, bitch.
All right, all right. All power to the people, peace and love. And thank you for your time, Giant.
Yeah, peace and love, man.
All right, peace and love.
Yeah, much love, man.
So, folks, you've had it there. You've been listening to the great Dhanifu Bey. Came on the line all the way from LA. First generation, was right there as the baby Panther, right there in the 65 riots, right there at the birth of the Crips, and understand how we got lost and caught up in the sauce, as we say. But now we know what flavor it is, and we're going to change the flavor this month. The flavor this month is forward ever, backwards never. Yeah? And if people don't understand where we're coming from, I got a little track lined up for you, and that track is called Rise by a young brother by the